At AutoMasters LLC, our mission is to serve our community by providing quality automobiles at affordable prices. All of our vehicles are inspected and certified to offer you the confidence in knowing you have a quality vehicle. Our goal is to provide you with a seamless process and positive experience for your automobile purchase. Financing recommendations and specific vehicle inquiries are available at your request. You can find us at www.automasters06.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, please feel free to contact Terrence Miles at 601-927-7794. And oh yeah, tell him Sonia sent you.
She say sports. She say sports. She say sports. She say sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. March is recognized as Women's History Month, and all month long we will be talking to some amazing women doing amazing things in the community. Please welcome District Coordinator for Aflac Insurance, Casedra Euell. What's up, Casedra? How are you?
Hey, Sonia, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Thank
you so much. So, Casedra, I brought you on today because this topic is a hot topic in our community, life insurance. And even though Aflac is way more than life insurance, I want to start there first. Is that okay?
That's okay.
Okay. So, Casedra, quite a few people don't realize they need life insurance until they need it. So, why do people need life insurance policies?
I'm sure everyone has had a situation to hit their home. We just buried one of my cousins about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the part that really touches me more than anything is individuals who actually think they're not going to die. I'm like, one day we all will leave this earth. And I just really, I pray that everyone starts to understand the importance of them taking care of their own responsibility versus us having to. It's one thing to lose a person and then have to figure out how you're going to bury that person.
Correct.
I've been in numerous of situations like that where we had to determine how we're going to pay for this or what's going to, it's just a burden on us. And I think that everyone owe it to their loved ones to have some type of coverage. I don't care if it's the minimum. If you have something, at least they can start off with that. It's just so important for us to understand that it is your responsibility to make sure something happens to you, that you are able to have a home going without anybody else having to struggle, take money out of their household to make sure that that person can get buried. It's just something that I wish just really think twice about it, and just start saying, hey, I need to make sure that I get my household in order because I do not want this to be a burden on anyone.
I totally agree. And it's speaking of burden, I remember growing up, my grandmother and grandfather, they used to pay this lady would come to the house every week. And they would give her, they was like, she here to, get our burial money. And I didn't know what that meant because, I'm a little girl. I'm like 7 or 8. I could have been younger, but mind you, this is in the 70s when I first saw it, and they could have been paying this insurance company for years. But she passed away in 2002. And from that policy that she'd been paying at least 30 years, she only received $1,200. And I found out later on that a lot of those insurance companies back then will go into Black communities and get them to fill out, like just because they didn't know any better. And so they're like, well, this is for burial. and a small amount they will pay once a week or once a month. And a lot of people probably were in shock when their loved one passed away. I'm like, but she's been paying this for 30 years. And,
Right.
thankfully we were able to take care of the rest of the funeral, but it's just, that's amazing to me. And my, is life insurance just, well, before I go there, that's why you see, you mentioned earlier, people need to take care of business, because you see a lot of people on social media doing GoFundMe's when their loved ones pass away.
Exactly.
And it's kind of, it's not our responsibility to help, but we do because we understand. And I understand that our community was not really taught about life insurance.
Right. Right.
Is life insurance just for burial?
Well, I think a lot of people get it mixed up. Call that individual also coming to the house and picking it up. Sometimes back when they purchase those policies, where you get a policy for, let's just say, $1,200. When they first purchased that policy, that probably is what was the price for a funeral at that time.
Gotcha.
Sometimes, I had a couple individuals that I, had to replace those policies, because when they took it out, I mean, I even purchased a policy for my mom a long time ago, back in 1994, for $5,000. And I thought $5,000 back in 94 was actually a whole lot of money to bury. But now that's not the case.
That's not, yeah.
I have had this policy since 1994. And now when you have parents who have, illness and et cetera, it's kind of hard to get them some more policies. So it's kind of like I probably paid it 20 times, but I won't go, because at the time, $5,000 was a lot. The difference between burial and life insurance, they still are life insurance, no matter how you put it. Some funeral homes have burial insurance where you can come in and take it out with them, or some even have where you can prepay for it. A lot of times, burial insurance is going to have a minimal amount. That is, you're not going to be able to get $100,000 in burial.
Right.
A certain amount, maybe less than 50,000.
Okay.
It has less underwriting, which means that you're more likely to get in, because you're not having to go through blood, urine, etc. There's nothing wrong with burial insurance. You just need to make sure you understand burial insurance, because you have different types. You got modified. They usually are whole life policies. Okay. If you have a policy, let's say for 45,000, but your funeral was only 10,000, the difference still come to you, so you're able to do what you need to do with it. You're still able to use the difference of that money. It's just like a life insurance. If you had a life insurance for 100,000, the funeral is 10,000, 90,000 of that's going to come to you. So they play the same role. They just have different underwriting criteria. You have to go. If you have individuals who are not able to qualify because they know blood and urine, what they'll do is they'll pull what they call an MIB. And that's just your medical information bureau. And all it's going to do is tell everything you do, from the time you've been to the doctor, from the time that whatever medication you taken, they're going to already have it on the file, so they can actually go ahead and give you the acceptance. Some companies can tell you immediately about it. Now, Aflac does not sell those burials. We sell true life, whole and term life is what we do. But there are a lot of companies out there that does sell burial, but that's the only difference in it. I mean, it's just underwriting. It may be a whole life policy. Some can be term, but I've ran across more whole life burials than I have on terms. Okay. So your burial, you have life insurance, they basically are the same. I ran into someone today that said that she had a burial, and the burial policy, the funeral was a certain amount, but they didn't get the difference. And I'm like, what company was she with? Because I've never heard of a company not doing, not to say that there's any out there, but if your funeral is 10,000 and you got 45,000, I mean, they can't keep the 45,000.
They can't keep that, especially, that doesn't make any sense.
Right. That's why I said she may want to go back and look at her policy, but they should have returned that.
So, Casedra, you mentioned whole life policies and term life. What are the differences between those two policies?
Okay. I'm glad you asked, because you have certain companies that promotes one over the other. I don't mind if I get personal with you guys, but just to let you know my situation, I took out a policy back when I was 32 years old. I had a company that came and talked about all the good benefits that he had. So I took the policy out because I'm like, okay, I didn't know anything about the difference between term and whole. So when I was diagnosed with lupus and I have this term policy, and because of the medication I'm currently on now, I can't get insurance unless it's modified, unless it's guarantee issued. So when a person asks me for my opinion about what's the difference from a term and a whole, I tell them, because guess what? I don't want them saying I promoted one over the other. I want
Right.
them to understand the difference between a term. Now, a term is like a lease. You're leasing it. You got some terms that goes up to 25 years, 30 years. You got some 15, you got some 5 and 10. After those years, some of the policies go away completely. Some of them go up every year, and nobody knows what their price is going to be. So it's very important that you understand what you have, because after those years are over, your policy can be completely over. Okay. Or it
Wow.
can go and it can triple with prices, but no one can tell you exactly what that price is going to be. Whole life. Now, advantages of terms. If you have a home, you have children, you have a lot of expenses that you want to make sure that you have enough for if something happens to you, especially if you're married. You need to make sure that you can offset your spouse's income. So I recommend a term to offset things because whole is very extremely expensive. Okay, especially if you're around our age. Well, we young, by the way, but it gets high. It gets really high. So a whole life is good for, if I would have known what I know now when I was in my 20s and just having fun, I would have took out $1 million policy, and it would have been a whole policy. I quoted a young man earlier today, 100,000 whole life policy, and I think it was like maybe $18 a pay period. So,
wow.
And what? And that's why I try to put emphasis on, hey, you young, this is when you get it. Now, when you get a whole life policy when you're young versus a term, the premium is not that much of a difference. It's not that much of a difference. But when you get it at our age, it's going to be a huge difference. So I like both. I don't promote cash. You know how some people say, oh, you can get a whole life, you can pull all that cash. Well, let me tell you about your grandmother and one of my family members. They pulled some cash off that policy, their whole life policy. And then you have a certain amount that sometimes you have to pay back. And if you don't, it depreciates what you have from the beginning. And that's one of those companies that we were talking about sometimes come around as well. We'll promote, you can get the cash value. I'm not twisting any company on the record. Nobody I'm twisting. I'm just saying, be careful. If you do get a whole life, don't get the whole life just because you talking about you want to pull some cash off. That's where you go into investments. Okay, that's a whole different situation. But if you want something just for death benefit, stay focused on this death benefit for just that purpose. And then if you cash, let's look into something else with some investments.
Got you. That's true. And so you mentioned about people our age, how policies are very expensive. So with somebody 50, 60 or older, which policy would you suggest that they get? Because they do get pricier as you get older.
They do.
That first time getting a policy.
Well, it's kind of tricky. That's kind of tricky because so many different factors take place with your rate. I don't know if people understand your height, your weight, your medication. Believe it or not, if you have felonies, if you have some companies everything. When I say everything, you got where a burial may not ask those questions. But if you have a true life or a true whole life policy, it may ask you everything. When I say, are you going skydiving? Are you going parachuting? Are you going to be racing cars? You name it, they can ask those questions. I mean, they ask, do you have DUIs? Do you have tickets? I mean, it gets very deep. So it would be on a case by case. Sonia, let's just say if a person is 50, I will ask questions like, what's your expenses? What's your goal with this? Do you want to just for burial? Do you want to make sure that someone can pay your house off? Do you want to make sure they can do these things? And I have combined policies together where of course, in 30 years, you may not have that house note anymore, but you still want something permanent. Or I suggest getting a term policy that you can convert into a permanent policy and you don't have to go back to underwriting. And that's important because you want something that's going to be where if your medical history change, you don't want to have to go back through underwriting. So that's another question when you get a term. Ask them, can this policy be converted into something permanent? Can I take a certain amount out? Let's say if you got 100,000, can I transfer 50,000, 25,000? And those are very important things that you guys need to know, because at the end of the day, if you have a policy and you're in a situation like I am, and a medical situation happened, and you can't get it anymore, you're stuck with that other policy, and then you're going to have to do something which is considered as a burial, which is a modified policy. Understand the difference between modified. Some company modifies, and they all different, y'all. So read, understand what you're reading. Some come with a 2-year, which means if you had the policy for 2 years, it pays you everything plus 5% or 10%. So some people, if you don't have anything, it's really good because you can't even go get a savings that's going to pay you 10%. Yeah, some 5%. So if you cannot get anything, you may want to look into something like a modified policy just so you can get some. I wrote a modified policy on myself, and that was because I couldn't get anything else unless I was able to go through my husband and get some guarantee issue things through the job. That's important at your job. If they offer you insurance, take it because it's a group rate, which means that you're not going to have to go through a lot of that red tape. Ask questions. Are you going to be able to take those policies with you? If you had a company for 20 years and you were younger when you first got that policy, but guess what? You're older now. So what happens? You can't take it with you. And now you're having to start all over.
Wow. Wow. That's good stuff. Thank you. So, well, let me ask, speaking of policies at work. So say, for instance, somebody has $100,000 policy that your job offered and you take it. Is it still important for you to get insurance on the side, or what? I guess it depends on what you're trying to do.
Exactly. But I also recommend you always having a policy outside your job. I had a case where they had a policy that they can keep. Now, some policies are age banned when you're on a group. So what happens when you turn a certain age, you may have 100,000, but when you turn 60 or 65, can go down to 29,000. And your premium can be the same amount. So even if they have those particular policies, make sure you understand it and ask questions about it. We do visit work sites, of course, and all of our policies you can take with you. We do have a couple group policies that if you do take it, the employer has to keep it because it's more like a certificate. If they go away, then the policy go away. So you have to be careful with those as well. But ask questions about, can I take it with me? Does this policy decrease when I turn a certain age? Just make sure you're asking the right question. And if you don't, hey, reach out to somebody that you know that really can talk to you more about the insurance. But everybody needs to have a policy outside their jobs.
Absolutely. Okay. So now, as I mentioned earlier, Aflac is more than just life insurance. Let's talk about a few of the other policies that Aflac offers. How important is it to have cancer or critical illness policies? And before you answer, let me give a disclaimer, guys. Nobody is claiming you're going to get cancer, you're going to have a critical illness. We all get auto insurance, not hoping and praying we're going to have a car insurance, but you do it because you need it just in case. So that's right. Go ahead, Casedra.
Right. And I'm glad she said that because this is an education section, guys. We're not, I don't claim anything. I didn't claim lupus claim me. Hey, it is what it is. I am fine, healthy, no issues, and been fine all the time. I just recently lost a family member to cancer. Okay. Cancer is one of those things that you definitely rather have one and don't need it than to need it and can't get it. If you go on worksite, you can get a cancer policy if you have been 5 years cancer free. Okay. Now, what happens? What if you're taking a preventive? You're still taking something. So you're really not cancer free according to the medication. You are, but the medication still is a preventive. So as long as you're taking those preventive, it actually can prolong you being able to qualify for a policy. If you buy a policy for Aflac on a direct basis, then you have to be 10 years cancer free. Okay. So we want to make sure that we have a policy in place, like you said. You buy car insurance because you want to make sure something happened. Now you calculate what you don't pay in car insurance versus what you pay in a cancer policy. That's night and day, night and day. But you're reaping things. You're reaping wellness benefits for just having a cancer, just for going to get cancer screenings. You're getting a wellness fee on that. With our cancer policy, you also can allow all your children to ride on the policy under 26 with no additional charge. Our policies are very unique because you're able to not only have these extra incentives, but we do have things we add on it. Like if you are diagnosed with lupus, if you're diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and we have a specified disease that you are being covered as well. So don't look at the policy with Aflac just as cancer. It's cancer plus specified disease. So you're able to reap the benefits on wellness once a year. So even if you don't do anything with it, you're going to have a well check. You're going to get a wellness, especially if you're female, you're going to get a well check. So you're going to be able to reap some of the benefits now. And if you make the decision you want to have chemo or not, you have a benefit that's going to pay you for that. And if you decide to go outside the state of Mississippi, that's a benefit. Do you know how many people travel outside the state of Mississippi to have service? And then they don't feel like coming back home. We have transportation reimbursement, lodging reimbursement. So this policy is very, very, it is, everybody has a nice cancer policy, but of course I'm going to love mine because I've had so many testimony where I've had individuals who were, and Sonia probably show you guys this later.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, tell that story about your friend buying a policy for her husband.
Yes, I had opened up a group, and I had an individual who made the decision that she wanted to get the cancer policy because her spouse had been diagnosed with cancer. Well, her spouse's mother had been diagnosed with cancer. And she's like, well, you know what, just get the cancer and put my husband on the policy. And I was like, okay, no problem. Wrote the policy up. I get a call less than 6 months after I wrote that policy to say, and this was the spouse, the husband called me. And I'm like, he's a jokester, y'all. You have to know him to understand. And he's like, I just thought you was coming to sell me another insurance person, just trying to sell me something. I said, no. I said, your wife was really concerned with the history of you having in your background, with cancer. And anyway, make a long story short, it was his wife who ended up being diagnosed with cancer. So he shared tears with me and said that he forever was grateful because the wife was thinking about the husband, but never thought that it would be her. So that I got a chance to travel to our corporate office and do a true testimonial about that situation because it was so, it was just heartwarming just to hear him say thank you. Thank you for just being there. Thank you for being able to hear my wife out, add me in, and etc. So it was a good testimony.
It's just amazing and a blessing to be able to help in a situation like that. And I know that makes you feel good, not only as an insurance agent, well, you're a director now, but as a person, and that was your friend. So that was a blessing that you were able to help that family. So, Casedra, I'm gonna mention this and then you talk about it. I remember when I first found out about Aflac, I was living in Dallas and we had, it was new. It was brand new as far as we were concerned. And they brought it to our company. And what caught my attention about Aflac was the supplemental policy, where if you were sick, if you were in the hospital, I believe that they will pay you money every day on top of your, I guess, your short disability from your job. Can you elaborate?
Right. So we have numerous of policies, and what I like about Aflac, guys, life insurance take care of people when it takes care of you when you date. You need some policies that are going to take care of you while you are alive.
Absolutely.
I know some people say, well, I have major medical. I have insurance. I don't need that. Listen to me, guys. Deductibles are real. Okay. Copays are real. And you want something that can pay you in the midst of it. Now you have the choice. The checks is made payable to you. I tell people, take your Blue Cross Blue Shield or United Healthcare and go to the pump and try to see if they give you any money when you get to
It's not happening. It's not going to happen.
Y'all go there and see if they're gonna really like say, okay, we're gonna send you a check for this amount. Or when it's time to pay your light bill, your gas bill, etc., and you have bills and you sick, the worst thing, you don't want to have to worry about how am I gonna make it, how I'm gonna have this, and how I'm gonna have that. Guys, I tell them with the short-term disability, I call that securing your paycheck. I ask people who has, when I do a presentation, I say, who has car insurance? They raise their hand. I said, well, who has home insurance? They raise their hand. I said, well, who has insurance on their paycheck? Everybody gets quiet. They get quiet. And believe it or not, I have owners who probably have money set aside that tells me, well, first of all, I don't want to have to use that money. If something happens, you want to be able to have as much time off as possible. If something like a heart attack, stroke, cancer, a real bad accident, you do not want to have to worry about how you, oh, I got to hurry up and get back home. I mean, get back to work because I'm not going to be able to pay my bills.
Right.
That's where Aflac come in. I mean, we are that gap. We are that gap that can pay you in the midst of you being in the hospital, or if you're in a bad accident, or if you have cancer, or anything major takes place. Guys, we are healthy today. We don't know what tomorrow holds. And unless you have, the average person can't save $1,000. You don't have a lot of people who have savings. If you do, good, keep saving. But for those who don't and not able to, you have to put that in something that you can make sure that if something happens, you'll be okay. But, yeah, so we do have short-term disability. We have hospital plans that can pay you for being admitted and every day you're there. We do have a great accident policy. If you have children that play sports, oh my gosh, I use that so much. From the husband who's a coach and an AD to the children who play volleyball, football, you name it. I was able to file a claim on them because they were always either getting hurt or something was happening. So if you had a high risk job where you're a trucker, or you know that you can have an accident, those policies are great. And we sell them on individual basis and on group basis. And I wanted to add that too. A lot of companies don't think that they can get Aflac. I want everybody to know, if you have a company, it doesn't matter if those people are 1099 or W-2. If you have a company that has at least 3 employees, you qualify for Aflac. And some business don't know that. And I'm here to tell you, if you have small business, and we target small business because they need benefits, they're not able to pay for health insurance. That's expensive, so you want to, people, I have had people say they would take a less paying job just so they can have benefits. So it is important to offer something to your employees if you want to keep them. Because if you're not paying them right and no benefits, they're going to go somewhere else. And you're going to have to, you're retraining them, and you spending more money by just retraining over and over again. So if you don't want to do all that, make sure you're offering good benefits. And those individuals stay just because. I want to add that we have something new. We have a true dental and vision. A lot of individuals, we used to have a supplement that can go in, that can enhance your dental and vision. But Aflac bought a company called Argus, and now we actually have true vision and true dental. So that's something. If you have a 3-man group, of course they have to be W-2s, and all you need is 2 people to qualify.
That's awesome. That is really good. That's good to know. So, tell us about the juvenile policies.
Okay.
Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
about
Juvenile, okay, we have a juvenile life in policy that if you from 0 to 17. I have a 25 and a 19-year-old. I took a policy out on them when they were 14 and they were 6. Well, now those policy double when they turn 18, and the premium is still the same. So my daughter has a $40,000 policy. I'm paying like $6.25. Of course, that was back when she was 6.
Right.
My policy is like $14. He was 14 when I got it, but he has a $40,000 whole life policy. So now they'll have a policy for the rest of their lives, and I've already educated them. And that's another thing. Educated parents, if you take policies out on these children, always remember that you educate them and tell them that I have a policy on you. If something happens to me, make sure you call and you take over that policy, because they don't have to go back through the red tape. And that's a for sure policy. And always remember, I've had a lot of people to forget that they have taken out a policy and they had their children on as a rider. Now, the older policy, you have to read it. Some say 22, some say 25. And if something happens, people forget that they have those kids on those policies. So I recommend an individual policy. But if you're on a budget, you want to save it, just so you won't forget to take them off those policies. So that's very important for you guys to go back and look at all your policies and see who's on and see who's off. Some companies send you something to say that they're off, but if you took those policies years ago, they probably don't have an update address. So always remember, if you have those kids on those policies, find out when they're actually going to be taken off.
Awesome. And so Casedra, and so grandparents, they actually can also take out a juvenile policy on their grandkids?
They can. I don't know what recently happened for a 15-year-old. The grandparents can still take it out. The parents can still take it out, but the 15-year-old has to sign now. And I get so tickled with it because I'm like, they're not going to pay for it. But trust me, something had to happen. You know, changes don't come unless something happens. So when I 15-year-old grandparent wrote it out, they said, well, you're going to have to get a sign. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to get a sign. They also may ask for the parent, which can be the father or the mother, if you take one that's below 15, to sign, just saying that you're giving them permission to take the policy out. But they can do.
That's a good lifetime gift that a grandparent can give. You know, soon as because at birth they can be insured. They can be on the policy, the babies. So
that's right.
That's really, now that's a push gift right there.
Yeah.
Here you go.
It is.
You know, if anything happens, so that's a blessing. That is a great blessing.
Yeah, I've had some grandparents to call me and take out insurance on all the grandchildren. I'm talking about every last one of them. They'll say, write them all up. I said, okay.
I love it. That's awesome. That's a blessing. Well, Casedra, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate this information that you've given not only to myself, but to the listeners, and hopefully someone heard this and made some decisions.
Yes.
I pray they made some decisions today, because we've always known we got to leave here, but after COVID 2020, life has changed so tremendously, and people have been leaving here left and right. So, excuse me, I thought it was very important to bring you on and just kind of educate people who don't know. Some people know, but some people do not. And it's so important to get as much information out as possible, good information. So, but before we go, I have a game that I play called What You Know.
Oh, Lord.
And because you are a football girl, we're going to do a little football trivia. Now, you don't have to get everything correct. Now, some of them, if you miss, I'm going to be surprised. But they don't have to be all correct. This is just for fun, jokes and giggles. That's all.
Okay. Which
2 players excelled in both football and played in the MLB? This was back in the day.
Okay.
Now, if you don't answer, so I'm gonna have to give you a hint in a minute. But this was back in the day. We were in college. We met, yeah, we were in college.
You gonna give me an A and a B?
Oh, you wait for me? No, I'm not gonna tell you.
You have to give me a choice.
No, it wasn't a choice. It's just two people. Okay, one of them was actually Jackson State's coach a couple of years ago.
That's right.
Okay, and the other one, he had a commercial. I can't say his name, but it was like he don't know diddly. It was Bo Jackson and Deion Sanders.
Okay. I'm gonna be bad at this. I'm telling you now.
No, it's just fun. It's just fun. Which player used Skittles as a mid-game snack?
Shaq. Shaq.
No, we're doing football. Marshawn Beast Mode Lynch. You remember Beast Mode, Marshawn? Okay, great. Let's move on.
Okay.
How many minutes is in 4 quarters of high school games? 12 minutes, okay. You better know this one. How many games did Velma Jackson lose in their 2023 football season?
0.
1.
For basketball? For basketball? Wait.
No, this is football. I thought they lost 1 game.
That was the championship game.
Okay, well when I was looking it up, they had it as included. So okay, so regular season, no, 0. Okay, you got two, boo. Okay. How many total games are played in high school football regular season?
13. Well, let me see, not 13. Wait a minute. It's 13 weeks I have to be on the road. So it depends on
You may be counting one of the playoffs.
So 12.
Typically 10 to 12 games, okay?
And depend upon the
Yeah, okay. Who won Super Bowl 58?
It's 58 now?
It was just a few weeks ago.
Oh. The Chiefs? I just hear everybody talking about the 49ers. One thing about my husband, he don't have a favorite team. So I don't have a team. It's like whoever wins, he just go with the flow. So I guess I don't really have a favorite team. So I
Gotcha. How many times has JSU been to the Celebration Bowl?
The 3?
No. Remember, you called me for one of them to do something for you with your tickets. So how many?
2.
2, not 3. Correct.
2.
What are the names of the 2 conferences in the NFL?
Oh, that thought. Let me text my husband.
No, we don't have that time. AFC or NFC?
Now he say we've been together for 34 years. We've been together from junior high all the way up, right?
Right.
And, baby, you should know more about this.
I thought you did. I really thought you did, Casedra. I'm so tickled. So, what is the most expensive NFL franchise according to Forbes? This easy. Who calls himself America's team? Where did I used to live in Texas?
Dallas
Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys. Yes. Thank you for that.
Last but not least, who was the coach of the year at Velma Jackson High School?
Oh, that would be Quentin Bernard Ewell.
Who is that?
That would be my husband.
Now, if you had missed that one,
he would have said, did you forget?
right.
But you know what?
Huh?
He got here through 3 different places, okay? You know
Wow.
how my sister put it on Facebook and I'm not on Facebook, so everybody start calling me. So when he gets home, I said, "You got Coach in?" He said, "Yeah," like it was nothing. I said, "Oh, okay. Well, it's good that I had to hear through the, you know."
She said, "Oh,
Thank you very much for telling me that.
thank you. Casedra, thank you so much for joining us today. Tell the listeners how they can contact you with any Aflac questions or want to get a policy.
Yes, my contact number is 601-832-3437. And my email is Casedra, it's long, Casedra_Euell@us.aflac.com.
Spell that name for us, please.
Casedra_Euell, EUELL@us.aflac.com.
Awesome. And guys, you can follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, at She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's our show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports.